Euripides is the least popular of the three great tragedians from classical Greece, which includes Aeschylus and Sophocles, but his plays are powerful nonetheless. He is believed to have written 92 of them, though he only won 5 awards. Unlike Aeschylus, who portrayed the heroes who emerged from the war, Euripides explored the devastation and suffering that war delivered, especially to the women. Perhaps this is why he was not as popular with the people of his time. He also portrayed the gods as irrational and uncontrollable, forces that could upend life. His tragedies were considered in general to be more realistic and less mythic than those of Aeschylus and Sophocles. One play that does take a more mythological approach is the Bacchae, where the irrational reigns and the world is undone by these forces. The irrational is the field of chaos out of which all things emerge. Because of its creative powers, it is also associated with the feminine. It is wild and untamed, like many a forest in the fairy tales, and it will consume you if you are not in right relationship to it. On a psychological level, the Bacchae deals with the refusal to recognize the irrational instincts as belonging to oneself. These instincts are represented here by the god Dionysus, who, rejected as a god by his family, comes back to teach them in the most dramatic way possible how to be attentive to those forces we cannot easily control with our rational minds. Dionysus is the son of a mortal, Semele, and Zeus. Because Semele is mortal, Zeus appears before her in disguise, but one day she is tricked by Hera into demanding that Zeus reveal himself to her as the god that he is. Now, you can't be fooling around with these things and not expect to be burned. A god is like an energy that is larger than oneself, and only the very prepared can hope to encounter it without being swallowed whole. Zeus resists this request, but eventually appears as a god before her, and Semele is instantly incinerated. She is pregnant with Dionysus, and Zeus scoops him up and sews him into his thigh until he is ready to be born. Now, Semele's family raised Dionysus, but they refuse to believe that he is the son of a god. When he is a young man, he travels to Asia and spends some time there, but returns to Thebes to right the wrong he feels has been done to him. When he arrives, his cousin Pentheus is the king, and he is the very embodiment of the rational mind. If this story, like all stories, can be seen as describing one psyche, Pentheus represents that which is driven by logic and rationality to the exclusion of all else. Pentheus does not believe in Dionysus's claim to be a god. He refuses to acknowledge these forces exist. To do so would threaten his rational approach to things. But in the meantime, Dionysus has drawn the women of Thebes, including Pentheus's own mother, into his cult. These women, known as the Maenads, are rumored to go into trances of ecstasy. Now, Pentheus tries to prohibit this cult because they are so irrational, but those forces are stronger in the psyche than the rational mind that tries to banish them, and they will not be contained. When a herdsman brings sensational reports that the Maenads' behavior is getting more frenzied and uncontrollable, Pentheus becomes curious. He's eager to see the women in action, so to speak. Dionysus, disguised as a priest, convinces the king to dress as a female Maenad and avoid detection and go to watch the rites. So Pentheus disguises himself as a female and hides in a tree to watch the women. Dionysus then informs the women that there is an interloper in their midst, and they find Pentheus and in a wild frenzy tear him into pieces. One of the women is Pentheus's own mother, Agave, who, in her possessed state, confuses her son with a mountain lion. Once he is dead, Agave takes the severed head of her own child and arrives at the palace, boasting that she has killed this lion, as her horrified family look on. Agave has been swallowed up by forces from the unconscious and cannot see what is before her, but her family see well that she is carrying her son's head. Eventually the spell lifts, and Agave realizes what she has done. On a psychological level, the Bacchae explores what happens when we don't recognize the truly powerful forces at work in the unconscious. Untended and unacknowledged, these chaotic forces often wreak havoc in our lives. How do we pay attention? Our dreams give us some clues, as do our reactions or overreactions to things. It is a fundamental tenet of all of our philosophical systems that paying attention or being present is important. The Eye of Horus reminds us of this all the way to the psychoanalytical gaze. What we cannot see or acknowledge will control us. It is curious that Tiresias, the blind seer, is the only one who can see the irrational forces and not be possessed by them. As Carl Jung wrote in the Red Book, but for him who has seen the chaos, there is no more hiding, because he knows that the bottom sways and knows what the swaying means.